Hey everyone, welcome back to Mr. Ian Teaches English. I'm Mr. Ian and I teach English. Today is more of a learning lesson, less of a practice. We're going to go through the 4 basic verb tenses in English. Now, there are 5 that are necessary to really speak good English and say anything you want, but 4 of them are basic that you learn at low levels. So some students maybe didn't get a good education in these or maybe forgot. So we'll go through each one, tell you exactly what they mean, and then also give you a conjugation chart so you can see exactly what each one should look like if you're using them correctly. Let's jump into these basic verb tenses. Now, it's important that you master these. English has 12 verb tenses total. All the verb tenses in English, we have 12 of them, but only 5 are necessary to talk about anything that you want in English. So if you master these 5 verb tenses, you can say anything you want in English. Now, 4 of these are basic verb tenses. 4 of them are pretty simple, and we learn these as you are learning English in the beginning. It's the simple present, the simple past, the simple future, and the present continuous. Some people say present progressive, but I don't like that name. I call it present continuous. The simple present is used to talk about facts, routines, and habits. These are things that we do all the time, things that normally happen. These are multiple events. The present tense isn't used to talk about a single time or a single event. It's used for multiple events. And English speakers don't use this very often. Unless we're talking about information or facts, we don't use this very much, but students use it all the time. The conjugation for the simple present is probably the most difficult because it changes the most, but it doesn't change a lot. Use the base form for I, you, we, and they. The base form is the simplest version of the word. No EDs, no INGs, no to in front of it. It's the simplest version of the word. It only changes in the third person singular, he, she, or it, or using a name. We do need to add s or es after it. The negatives are when things get difficult because now we are introduced to this word do or does or don't in the negative, and that word doesn't really mean anything, but it's necessary to create good negatives. Now, I'll talk about this more in another video, but in English, there's a simple rule. We use the word not to create negative sentences, and we must have a word in front of that. So here, do not, don't, or does not, doesn't. But we have to have both of those things to create good negatives in any English verb tense. The present continuous is probably the next one that you learned. The present continuous talks about things that are continuing or in progress right now. Any continuous tense or any progressive tense is talking about things that are continuing or progressing at a certain time. The present continuous are things that are continuing now. So these are things that you are in the middle of doing, things that are happening right now. This is really common in English conversation because we talk about things that we are seeing, things that we are doing right now in the moment. Present continuous conjugation is a little bit difficult because we have to use the correct verb to be, but after to be, everything is the same. You'll see that it is base verb plus ing after that. Now the negatives, they use that same rule I talked about earlier. We use not, and then we use a word in front of it. So this word in front here is the be verb that we use in front. So I'm doing, you're doing, and then the negative, I'm not doing, you're not doing. The simple past is used to discuss single events in the past. These are single events. There's no difference between something that happened 500 years ago, and something that happened 5 minutes ago. It's the same verb tense in English. With the simple past, we usually also include when something happened. So it's very normal in a past tense sentence to include the time. Like, I walked with my mom yesterday. I ate dinner last night. We usually include a time with it. Now, this is when we divide verbs into regular and irregular, because regular verbs here are pretty simple with their EDs. They all end in ED. Irregular verbs, unfortunately, need to be memorized. There's nothing you can do about that. The simple past is great in conjugation because it doesn't conjugate. It's always exactly the same. You'll see in the chart here. The negatives as well don't conjugate, but follow that rule of not and then something in front of it. Pronunciation is where the regular past tense verbs become difficult. Here's a sample of the pronunciation sounds that ED can make, but I've got a complete other video, including practice about that, so go check out that video after you're done here if you want to know about how to pronounce those regular verbs. The last one we're going to talk about today is the simple future. Just like with the simple past, we don't show a difference between very soon future or very far away future. So 5 minutes into the future is the future. 500 years into the future is also the future. We don't make a difference there. All right, now this gets a little more complicated. There are 2 ways to create it. The 2 most common ways are will and going to. There is a difference between will and going to, but it's not that important. Most situations, it does not matter. As you experience English more and you watch more TV, read more books, you'll notice how we choose one or how we choose another, and maybe I'll create a video about that. But there's no real difference here in most situations. You can substitute them. The conjugation for the simple future, if you're using will, is pretty easy. It's will plus the base form or the base verb. If you're using going to, it's a little more complex, but still follows those rules as before. Notice in the negative, there is an unusual negative here for will. That is won't. It is will and not equals won't. And you probably noticed in all of my conjugation charts that I use the contractions. I use the shortened versions of them. This is really important because native speakers almost always use contractions. Students sometimes use contractions. This is the most important with will. I almost never hear a native English speaker using the word will. We always contract it to ul. So I'll, you'll, he'll, my family'll, my teacher'll. We always contract that. Some others, sometimes we contract, sometimes we don't. But this is the one where we always contract. Thanks so much for watching. Verb tenses are hard. There's a lot of them in English, but they're really, really important. There are 3 things that you can make mistakes with in English that can make it impossible for your listener or your reader to understand you. And verb tenses are one of those big 3. So I know it's hard, but master these 4 basic ones and you're going to be in a really good position to be able to talk about anything you need to in English. Stay tuned, check out some other videos, but I'm going to be giving a video of that 5th verb tense. I told you there are 5 necessary verb tenses. Today I gave you 4. I'll be giving a video about that 5th verb tense very soon. So check back and we'll see you next time.